Let's talk about the Seattle Mariners today. Okay, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the 30 on 30. I'm doing a break for those of you that are here for the first time. Welcome, and just so you know what I'm doing a 30 by 30 breakdown. One team every day for the next 30 days to account for all 30 teams in the major leagues. I'm going to go over their kind of outlook, identify some of their major needs, what I think they should do, and what versus what I think they'll actually do. So hit that subscribe button, hit that notification if you haven't yet so you don't miss the rest of them. I've already done the West and the National League and the NL. And American League. It's down in the description. I'm in the Central right now, right in the middle, and then we're going to go over to the East after this. So keep an eye out for the rest of them. So we're going to talk about the Seattle Mariners today. In my opinion, they're not in a position to contend. Okay. They could go 80 and 82 or 82 and 80 or whatever, but I just don't see them contending yet, especially with Oakland and Houston in that division. I just don't see it happening, and Texas is probably ahead of them as well. But they do have two pretty tradable, two very valuable chips that would be at least a smart idea to consider or listen to trade offers. And Kyle Seager, their third baseman, and Marco Gonzalez, one of their ace starting pitchers. Whenever you have somebody like that with multiple years of control, someone that's an all-star on a contract that's very, very, very reasonable, especially compared to a bunch of the other third basemen out there, it's a good idea, in my opinion, to consider proposals. And people will come after that because Nolan Arenado's already on a $200+ million deal. Chris Bryant's probably going to cost upwards of $200 million as well. Seager's on a $100 million deal. Yes, $100 million is a lot of money, but it's not even half of what those guys going to cost. So he's on a very, 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 very team-friendly contract for a player of his caliber, and so is Marco Gonzalez. I think he's on a 4-year, $50 million deal or something like that. And for a pitcher with 4 more years of control, who goes out there and is a legitimate number 2 and a number 1 for some teams, that's a hell of a contract too. So a team like this, which could use to consider trading these guys to really get some prospect capital and some player capital in return, and it's addition by subtraction. They could take 2 steps back to potentially take 3 or 4 or 5 steps forward over the next couple of years. So it's something that I think it would be a good idea for them to consider. Now, in terms of identifying needs, infield, second base, starting pitching, and bullpen. Second base, and I mentioned this guy to a lot of other teams. Now, two players actually. Jurickson Profar, and who is a versatile player. He can play infield and outfield. He's only 28, and he would be the perfect type of player to go into Seattle. It's a low pressure market, and he'd be able to come in on an affordable deal. He would give them some versatility, some youth, and go fit right into that lineup. And so would a guy like Tommy La Stella, who can also play multiple positions. He's been on the West Coast. I think he'll cost a little bit more than Profar would, but either one would be a good fit at second base and to back up other positions as well. So I think those two guys, at the very least one of them should be somebody that the Mariners should pursue. Starting pitching, I think they should actually go after Corey Kluber. So should some other teams as well, but he'd be a perfect fit to go right in there, right behind Gonzalez, and give them a 1-2. If they don't move him, then he can move up. Or if they do move him, then he can move up. And again, they need another arm, but at the same point, they're not in the position of contending. So if they're going to bring in a Kluber or another starter, then they should keep Gonzalez. At the very least, they have a solid 1-2. But if they're not, then I think they should consider a rapid rebuild. And with those 2 chips, they could do just that. And bullpen, somebody like Shane Green. Solid reliever, veteran. He'd be a good fit on a lot of teams. Seattle, Oakland, Padres, Dodgers, a lot of teams. Back on the Braves. Any team that needs a solid right-handed veteran bullpen pitcher, he'd be a good fit on. And that's mostly every team. Even Houston, playoff teams, a lot of playoff teams could do well to bring him in. And but again, these are pieces that I think the Mariners could make. They could bring in a pitcher if they brought in a Kluber and the Profar and the Shane Green. They wouldn't break the bank for any of them, but they would be incrementally better, significantly better actually than they were last year. So, and again, it will put them in a position to kind of hopefully be competitive over a 162 game season, or even if it's a 120 game season. We really don't know what the length of the season is yet, or the status of what's going to happen, but even if it's a 120 game season with some fans or whatever transition back towards 162, these guys would be good fits on the pitching side and the offensive side. And again, they wouldn't break the bank, so it would fit right into the Seattle Mariners motto of bringing in some solid players, and without breaking the bank. I don't think they're in the position to compete against or to overtake Oakland or Houston yet. So even though Houston's going to undergo some transition over the next couple of years, Carlos Correa, their shortstop, is a free agent after next year. George Springer is a free agent now. There's a chance they might lose both. So, and Justin Verlander's out the whole entire year for Tommy John surgery, and Zach Greinke's on the decline. So, they could be overtaken by Oakland this year. But we'll see. They still have a lot of talent there. A lot of talent. Now, in terms of what I think they will actually do, I do think they'll bring in like a Jurickson Profar or or a Tommy La Stella, one of them. So, or somebody who another player like that who's versatile and can play multiple positions. Jonathan Villar. I think they'll bring in somebody like that. He'll be desirable for a lot of teams. He may go back to Baltimore. He makes a good fit for the Angels as well. He's also a good fit for Seattle. So I could see them bringing in one of those three. In terms of starting pitching, I actually predicted them to get Drew Smyly, but he signed with the Atlanta Braves this morning, or yesterday, I should say, and for a one-year deal and $11 million, which is a lot more than I thought he would sign for. But Braves are loading up on pitching again, and hopefully he'll be a healthier version of what Cole Hamels, or what they thought Cole Hamels was going to be last year, and did not turn out to be. So he's with the Braves. So I can see them bringing in, maybe one of these Japanese pitchers, these two top pitchers in Japan. They're yet to be posted, but I think one or two of them will be posted. And whichever one is posted, I can see him signing with the Seattle Mariners. They do well with Japanese pitchers, and they bring in quite a few players from Japan over here, or from Asia. And I think he'd be a good fit. I don't know their names. I can't pronounce them, but it's one of the top two pitchers in Japan, and I can see them getting one of those guys. And bullpen, I can see him bringing in somebody, my prediction, but somebody like Joaquin Soria, who's been a journeyman around multiple teams, but he's still a very serviceable right-handed reliever. Comparable to a Shane Green, not necessarily a power arm, but he can still go out and put in an inning, maybe two, and give the bullpen exactly what it needs in terms of that arm. I could see them bringing in another depth piece. Seattle's going to be kind of following the same mode, in my opinion, of a lot of other teams. Instead of making huge expenditures on one or two players, they're going to take advantage of this market, and bring in 4, 5, 6 guys on very, very reasonable deals, 1 or 2 year deals, because the majority of players, I think, are going to be. This is going to be somewhat of a bloodbath for the players this year in terms of the market and the revenues that were lost by MLB. I don't think it's going to be, with the exception of, 15 or 20 guys, I think it's going to be very slim pickings in terms of teams for other players, or it's just going to be not very big, not very generous in big contracts. Although I could be wrong, because Atlanta just gave Drew Smyly $11 million. So teams could be willing and able to spend. So we'll see what happens, and but that's the kind of the path I see Seattle taking. Multiple incremental moves to address a lot of holes in field, outfield, potentially a multi-positional player, starting pitching and bullpen, and bringing in quite a few. But if they trade Kyle Seager or Marco Gonzalez, they could really, really accelerate a rebuild, and they can get a lot. Both of those guys. Those are two are very, very valuable assets. Good players, some of the best at their position, and on very, very reasonable contracts. And that is gold for teams, especially right now. Instead of spending, oodles and oodles of money on somebody, they could trade for somebody who's on a very, very reasonable contract and be there for the next 4, 5, 6 years. And again, it won't hinder their ability to sign somebody else. If they could spend $20 million dollars on 2 players. A lot of teams would rather do that and spend it on 1. So, and I think that's going to be the mentality for for a lot of teams for the next year or 2 until things get a little bit more financially stable again. Once we have some leadership at in Washington actually taking care of this issue that this pandemic. So, and I think we're making progress, but we'll make more progress in 2021. So, but that's my Seattle off season. Let me know what you think. Hit that thumbs up if you enjoyed this. It's helpful to the channel's growth either way, so please hit it, and please hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so before you leave. So my next team, we're gonna go over to the Rockies in Denver, Colorado. Go over to Colorado Rockies, baby. So look out for that. Be safe. Take care of each other. See you in Colorado.